Alrighty, welcome back to an Aeropoke special video. Today, we'll be going over the rotation, talents, legendaries, covenants, and tips and tricks you can use in your Season 4 Mythic Plus dungeons to be a better Outlaw Rogue. Let's get straight into it. Now, for most of this guide, I'm going to be using this resource called Subcreation. So you're just going to open a new tab, type in mplus.subcreation.net, enter that in. You're going to see a bunch of tier lists here. You're going to have the Dungeonese, Tank tier list, Hero tier list, Range tier list, and Melee tier list. This changes per week. As you can see, currently it's Fortified Sing and Grievous Shrouded, but next week it's going to change. You can look at specific affixes. So last week, you see that was the tier list. Not much has changed. I believe Feral is in D tier this week, which, you know. Oh, surprisingly, actually, up to B tier this week. But regardless, we're not here for Feral. We're here for Outlaw. So you're going to go to S tier, where this should be. Hit some Outlaw, and you're going to see this page. It could be a little intimidating at first with all the details on here, but I'll just go through it step by step. First, you're going to look at the talent builds here. Then you can see the max key level that these talent builds have done. And as you can see, the lowest level has still done a 21. So if you're just looking for portals, or if you're just looking for Keystone Master, whatever you're looking for the mount, any build here you see will be viable. But as you can see, by 50% of the player base who plays Outlaw, about 1,900 players, play this top build. That's generally the one you want to go for. But me personally, currently 2369 score. I play with this build down here, towards the bottom. Only done 6% of the player base playing it, but I love Blade Rush for an extra energy regen if you're needing it. If you don't need it, you feel fine, you want to go for extra damage, that's fine. Just go Dancing Steel, and you're on your way. This talent right here, Dirty Tricks versus Prey in the Week, very personal preference. If you're finding yourself interrupting a lot with Gouge, which is a very good interrupt, if the mob can be gouged, which is an incap, so if the mob can be incapacitated, you definitely want to use gouge if you do not have your kick up, or if it can't be kicked, because it's really just a builder, right? Just generates you a combo point, and it's free, as you can see with Dirty Tricks. So if you have a free interrupt on the mob that's unkickable, let's say, like let's say a throw, you got Iron Docks here. Just gonna go to MB tier real fast. Iron Docks. These mobs over here, the Thunderlord Wranglers. We're gonna right click them. They're gonna have a throw ability. This will decimate your tank. What you're going to want to do, as you can see here, interrupt affected by sap, slow, stun, and taunt. And also, sap isn't technically an incap, so it can be gouged. So if you see throw coming out, you can definitely just gouge it real fast, and it completely negate from happening, and you generate a combo point when you gouge. Now, if you're not looking to gouge a lot, or cheap shot a lot, or sap a lot, whatever, you just say you're pugging some keys, want some just easy dungeons. You're going to run Prey on the Week. Now, what you're going to want to do with Prey on the Week is just completely kidney and cheap shot as many mobs as possible. I love doing this on Workshop, Mechagon Workshop, third boss. When the plants come out, you get 6 combo points ready, because you're running Deeper Stratagem, so you're going to have 6 combo points. You got 6 combo points ready, you're going to run over to it, boom, 6-second kidney, and it takes 10% increased damage. So your whole group just switches, boom, blast the plant real fast with the kidney, extra damage for Prey on the Week, and then you're done. That's it. Now, as you can see, Dirty Tricks and Prey on the Week are both extremely competitive talents. Both run 28s. It's really just personal preference, whether you're gouging more or you find yourself kidneying more. If you're doing neither, I would just say work on your rotation. Try and just find opportunities in dungeons where mobs can be either gouged, get some free combo points, or kidneyed. Just whatever you're playing the most of, whatever you're kidneying the most, whatever you're gouging the most, regardless, play what you enjoy. That's basically it. Now you can see this first talent section here is going to have 2 different competitive talents. You're going to have Weapon Master, and you're going to have Quick Draw. Now, the reason why people are playing Weapon Master, Sinister Strike has a 10% increased chance to strike an additional time, is for your Blunderbuss Legendary. Now, if you scroll down to the legendaries, I'll go over this in a second. We're just going to hover over the Concealed Blunderbuss on the wrist and hands. And whenever Sinister Strike hits an additional time, there's a 40% chance their next build shock will fire additional 3 times. Very good competitive legendary. Very, 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 very good. Now, people run this first talent point here, so they can have additional chance of proccing this Blunderbuss. If you're not running the Concealed Blunderbuss, I would not suggest going for Weapon Master. I would consider going for Quick Draw, which I'm sure all of these 5 builds here are going for not Blunderbuss Legendary, which is just some extra pistol shot damage. Whenever you proc a pistol shot from your Sinister Strikes, you're going to get an additional combo point, and it's just going to do more damage. So if you're not using the Blunderbuss, go with Quick Draw. Boom, bang. Acrobatic Strikes, always want to go for this talent. It's an insanely strong ability. Always just going to be attacking from a further range. You can dodge mechanics. You can stay much farther on some bosses. Let's say Last Boss Workshop. There's an insane range there already on the melee. You can stand even farther back. And it's just extreme value. That's great. Deepest Strat, very good as well. Up to 6 common points. Your finishing moves are just going to do more damage. So your dispatches are just going to go even harder than before. Max 6 common points. It's amazing talent. Cheat Death, another amazing talent. Basically, with this talent, you are practically invincible. You're always pressing Feint for a damage reduction. And you're always having Cheat Death if any shit hits the fan. For any reason. You got a Cloak, you got Evasion. It's an insanely strong defensive class and build. Now, Alacrity, we always run Alacrity. It's just free haste. Just always haste. You're going to have 10% haste pretty much constantly throughout the dungeon. Unless you're pulling very slow in between packs, then it might drop off a few times, which is unfortunate. But generally, in keys, you're always going to have 100% uptime on Alacrity. It's just going to do insane damage, or just passive damage, really. It's just going to bring up your haste by a lot. You see on the right here, we're going to our Covenant section. The max key done with Venthyr is a 28, but as you can see, Necklord is still extremely competitive. And even if you're on Night Fae, 3 people right now, 3 people run Night Fae, they've done a 21. It's really, if you're trying to just push Keystone Master, even get your portals, any of these Covenants are fine. I'd say Necrolord and Venthyr are most competitive by far. I played a bit of Kyrian. It's not the worst. A lot of CDR. Very good, very good, very good. Because if you can get CDR on your defensive abilities, like Cloak of Shadows, last season in Sanguine Depths, I run Kyrian a lot. Because if you could get your Ekin Wearmand give you 7 combo points, that increases the amount of CDR you get from your passives. So the more combo points you're spending, the more cooldown reduction you're having on all of your abilities. So basically, Kyrian playstyles, you should keep it rolling. You keep it rolling. You're just always having stuff up to press. But it's just not as much pure damage as Venthyr brings. Because Venthyr just gives you 30% haste, 30% verse whenever you press it. And it's just incredible. Necrolord, also very good. I would say more in a fortified setting with a lot of trash. Unfortunately, this season, Season 4, there's not a lot of that. I'd say Junkyard is probably the best dungeon to run Venthyr on. But, as you can see, most people... to run Necrolord on. Most people are still running Venthyr, though. Just because of ease, comfort, whatever. If you're playing better as Venthyr or Necrolord or even Kyrian, I would just continue playing as one of those 3 Covenants. I would not suggest to play Night Fae, unless you just want to try it out, just have some fun, fuck it, go hard. Good deal. Good for you. Down here to legendary builds, you can see there's basically 1 legendary, quote unquote. You can mix and match, but there's 1 legendary for every Covenant in a competitive sense. You can see Venthyr generally runs a Blunderbuss, just because if you get those extra Sinister Strike procs on your pistol shot, that's going to help you build your Venthyr 30 combo points faster. Because basically, you want to play Flagellation where you press it, then you're going to want to spend 30 combo points in the next, I believe, 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds, 15 seconds even. You just want to spend as many combo points as possible. That lowers the cooldown reduction of fluctuation, and it at the end of those 12 seconds, if you reach 30, you're going to get a 30% haste buff and a 30% versatility buff, and it's just going to be insane damage after you ramp. It's just a quick ramp, and then you're popping off. So paying Blunderbuss increases the amount of common points that you're just going to generate, and it's just going to be great. Now down to Greenskins Wickers. This is generally run with Necrolord. Not any reason to it, I would say. I'd say you can also run Venthyr. It's still strong. People are still running 27s, extremely high. With Venthyr Greenskins. But I would just give both a shot if you can. Just run, I don't know, to make it 190 legendary. Yeah, it doesn't have to be high level. Just try playing with both. I personally just love Blunderbuss. I love how it plays. And I also love down here, it's going to be Deathly Shadows. I loved playing this in Season 3 with Necrolord. Whenever you vanish, it's just going to be a 50% damage buff for 12 seconds. You're just going to do insane damage for those 12 seconds. It's going to be, it felt great to play. I really love Deathly Shadows, but there's just not enough AoE packs with Necrolord to make it viable in my mind. But, you know, give it a shot. If you can, I would make it 190 legendaries for Greenskins, Blunderbuss, even Deathly Shadows if you're considering it. Have people run 24s on it. It's not a bad legendary by any means. For Kyrian, I would say Invigorating Shadow Dust is an insane legendary for it. Just because you're going to be, with your Kyrian abilities, you're just going to get more common points, which means you can spend more, get more CDR, like I said earlier, and you're going to use that to mash Vanish on cooldown. You're going to want to mash Vanish on cooldown, because Vanish, if you press Vanish, okay, basically, you have a Conduit that I believe is called Count the Odds here. Just going to do a quick check real fast. You have a Conduit called, Count the Odds. So, whenever you ambush or dispatch, ambush being your stealth opener, dispatch being your finisher, it gives you a 33% chance to get a roll the bones buff, right? But if you're in stealth when you're doing it, the duration and chance is tripled, which is insane, right? So you have a 99% chance to get a roll the bones buff for 15 seconds if you're activating it from stealth. So, first off, you're going to want to make sure your tank always lets you stealth before a pull in dungeons. It just is so helpful. You can get so many more roll the bones buffs up and just keep it rolling. You're just always gaming. It's great. And you're always going to want to press Vanish on cooldown. Because if you can Vanish into a dispatch or Vanish into an ambush, either one of those, if you're at full common points, you can Vanish ambush or Vanish dispatch, finish your common points, and get a huge roll the bones buff. It's just very nice. So playing with Vanish, reducing the cooldown of your abilities by 20 seconds. That lowers your Echoing Reprimand, which is already, I believe, a 45-second cooldown, to a 25-second cooldown. So you're just playing faster. It's just a faster playstyle. You're getting more common points. You're getting more CDR. It's just less damage. Echoing Reprimand just does less damage, theoretically, than Venthyr or Necrolord. But if you enjoy the Resounding Clarity, Echoing Reprimand, Kyrian, Invigorating Shadow Dust build, play that. It's amazing. I had a blast with it. It's just not competitively as good currently. Here's some Soulbinds. I won't go over this much. It's just, 1-1 Theatar. You can run Nausea. If you're feeling a bit spicy. I don't know. I just generally think Theatar is a more competitive play, especially with Life's but an Appetizer here. When you're eating any food buff, you get 60 speed, 60 avoidance. Insane buff. Just super helpful in every way. You get a little shield from Token Appreciation, not too big of a deal. Mastery Circle, you don't really need to stand. I mean, it's going to increase your damage if you do, but your main gouge is definitely not your best damage, which is your Mastery. Definitely going to be on the lower side. And Double Door Shadows, in my opinion, I prefer Double Door. But also Door frees you from Roots and Snares. Also competitive option. I would run Marileth for sure in dungeons as Necrolord, because you have the ultimate form here. So whenever you're chanting Fleshcraft, you're immune to crowd control. This is especially good on the first boss of Streets. Now you can already Cloak of Shadows the circle sorry, the interrogation bubble that you get. You can already cloak that. But if you're flesh crafting, you can save your cloak for any other dangerous ability that you'd like to use it for. And Fleshcraft is just a nice personal, gives you a nice shield. Yeah, it's just a helpful ability in general. And playing Marileth, whenever you use your Fleshcraft, you're just going to soak up whatever type of mob is around you, say mechanical, humanoid, elemental, undead, whatever. You get a special buff depending on what type of mob that is, that just helps you increase your damage overall. Just pretty nice. Conduit builds, I'd say these are all pretty much the same. Favorite conduits, I'd say Count the Odds by far. That was the one where whenever you're in stealth, open up, boom. Great damage, great roll the bones up time. And I love playing with quick decisions. Insane range on Grappling Hook. It's such a far range. You can use it. It's such good mobility. I just love using it. And it's all pretty great. I'd say any of these builds are pretty competitive. Very viable. I'll run 24s and higher. So whatever you're liking to play, I'll just play that. Most popular is at the top here, but if you're not enjoying it, don't play it. There it is. For gems, you're always going to want to run verse, especially for enchants. Run verse on your rings. Yeah, it's pretty great. Now for tier, definitely do not want to run the hands. The hands have haste and mastery, mastery being your worst stat. Your stat prior is going to go as follows. It's going to be crit, you're going to want about 30 to 35% crit, and you're always going to want to pick crit from the start of the dungeon on Shrouded. From the affix, you're going to want to pick crit every time. It's just max amount of damage. Followed by haste, you're going to want about 15% haste or so. You're going to get a lot of haste from your alacrity. Your alacrity talent, you're going to get a lot from your flagellation. If you're running the ring set from Mechagon, which is your best, I would run that. That's a lot of haste as well. You're always going to be very high in haste. And in Junkyard, you want to run haste. That's a very important note. Whenever you're running Junkyard, pick haste. Everybody picks haste. It's the best, by far. So, back to the tier set. Do not run hands. Hands have mastery. Mastery's the worst. And yeah. On to verse, actually. Verse, you want to run just as much verse as possible. Once you have about 30 to 35% crit, 10 to 15% haste, as least mastery as possible, you're going to want to run full verse all the way. Boom, boom, boom. Trashmaster's Mantle. I'm talking about anything that just pumps verse. Want to run that. Want to run that. For sure. For sure. So I'd run the helm, legs, chest, and shoulders from tier. Absolutely. Going on, there's enchants, weapons. This is very min-maxy. But any of these weapons you see here are good. You know, crit verse, great weapon. Crit haste, fine. Crit haste, fine. Yada, yada, yada. Verse mask, not the best, but it's fine. Edge of Night. You see this dagger here in 3 positions here. This dagger is the best weapon in the game by far for Outlaw Rogues. I know, it's a dagger. What? How? Question mark? Huh? No, it is the best weapon in the game for an Outlaw Rogue. Better than Painsmith weapon, which is going to be your main hander. Now, you can't main hand a dagger as Outlaw, but you can offhand it. So, you're going to want to run the raid. Even in LFR, I swear to God, my 298 weapon from Mechagon, my flame torch, my torch, axe, whatever, with avoidance, is worse than an LFR Sylvanas dagger from Faded, which is 272 eye level. So you're going to literally want to run as much Sylvanas as possible. Get the dagger. That shit's bis. It's incredible. It's just going to do an insane amount of damage, especially during execute phase. So it says, as the target becomes more injured, it stacks it at 4 times. Beautiful. At 4 stacks, it's just going to do incredible damage. You have a 12% chance on your finishing moves to just do extra damage when you're in the execute phase, 20% lower. It's just going to go insane. It's going to pump. It's going to do so much execute damage. If you really want to min-max, you can run a different weapon as your offhand, and then when you hit the execute phase, switch to your Edge of Night and just pump with the Edge of Night. And for the full execute phase, generally that's better in raids than dungeons. You definitely don't want to be min-maxing like that in dungeons. That's just too much work. But you definitely just want to run Edge of Night in dungeons 100% of the time. That's great. For your main hand, I don't see it here, but a Cruciform Vein Ripper from Painsmith is your best weapon by a lot. The proc is incredible. It's whenever they're slowed, whenever you're behind them, I believe. So you can run your poison to make them slower. That procs your bleed from your weapon, and you can just be behind them constantly. And that also procs your Mechagon ring. Your Mechagon ring procs. You're gonna want the one where whenever you're behind your target, you proc Met Haste for X amount of seconds. So that combos very well with your Cruciform Vein Ripper from Painsmith. Ideally Mythic, but a heroic or even normal version is very good, very competitive. I would not go for an L5 version. At that point, I would go for a 298 version of any of these dungeon weapons. I think that's just better. Running crit verse, crit haste. Yeah, I think that's just competitively better, even verse mastery. But, yeah, running a Cruciform Bane Whipper normal mode and higher for Faded, so that's going to be 278 or 291 or 304. Any of those 3 eye levels is very competitive, very strong. You just want to be behind your target, you want to be using your slow poison, and you just want to be getting that damage in. It's very nice. For the trinkets, ideally you're going to want to go with a high verse trinket. This one, I believe, Nitrog Thunder Tower. I totally forget what this is from. I believe it's either Grimmer or Iron Docks. I want to say Grimmorel, second boss. I believe that's his name. And then this other trinket is from Mechagon Junkyard. Very good. Also the Cache, if you're a raider. This is from Zymox and Sepulchre. Very strong trinket. You're always going to want to go for the bleed on this trinket, because it goes off your crit. So whenever you crit, you apply bleed to the target. Doesn't sand damage, doesn't sand single target. Pretty good AoE. One thing to note with your AoE, using Cache of Acquired Treasures, if you press Blade Flurry, that does the AoE. But when you're attacking with Blade Flurry active, it's only going to do single target damage. Or if you press Blade Rush also applies the AoE. So, normally attacking with Blade Flurry as a passive, it's not going to do anything. When you press Blade Flurry, that does the AoE bleed. Pretty unfortunate, but that's the world we live in. People still running File from last tier. Very strong trinket. I would also recommend Solea's down here. Solea's is very strong. You're going to want to run Verse. Find someone with Verse. It's very hard. Very, very, very hard. Nobody runs Verse. Try to find another rogue. I would recommend Brewmaster. I'd recommend Vengeance. Let's see. Guardian Druid. Tanks like that. I also believe Havoc might run Verse main stat. So anybody who you can find that runs Verse main stat, bada boom, bada bing, Soleil's secret technique, pop it on them. That's beautiful. I have Command, a very strong trinket. You're just want to get it. Just builds your crit. Sorry for the ding. It's just going to build your crit by an insane amount. You're going to do so much damage single target. And it's just amazing. Another great single target trinket, Hateful Chain. Not the best, I'd say, but it's pretty strong. Also, Chain of Domination from Mythic Jailer, or from Jailer in general. Pretty strong trinket. I'd say on normal, heroic, or mythic version, it's very competitive and can do a lot of damage in AoE. Also, I like to mention, in addition to this pure verse trinket, the verse trinket, I believe, is the Enforcer Stun Grenade from Iron Docks. This trinket has a bit of verse on it, main stat, just sitting on it, and then when you press it every 2 minutes, it gets about, 800 verse. It's pretty strong. Can give you a little bit of a burst window and just survivability as well. High verse, very nice. And yeah, that's about it for trinkets. All right, I believe that is it for the guide on talents, legendaries, covenants. Yeah, so we're just gonna move over to the rotation and transition. All right, back to the rotation over here. We're just going to be testing out some training dummies here in Stormont. Just going to show off the rotation. There are going to be weak cores on the screen. If you're curious about any weak cores, feel free to leave a comment. I'd be happy to provide them to you. Very helpful weak cores in general. And we're going to be going with this mock. Great. So, starting out in stealth, you're going to want to always have your roll the bones up. Okay, apparently it's not good. Right, it says crit here with my weak core. That means that I get Ruthless Precision. Now, whenever between the eyes crits... So, okay, Ruthless Precision increases the crit chance between the eyes by 60%. and 20% else, 20% crit for everything else. Now, whenever Between the Eyes crits, it does 4 times the amount of damage. Incredible amount of damage. So, it's not the best here, but as you can see, when I opened up with an ambush, I got cooldown reduction, which is pretty decent. On its own, it's pretty fine. Not the best. That's my blunderbuss proc whenever I hit a Sinister Strike. So, we want Blade Flurry up in anything above 1 target. 2 targets, Blade Flurry. 5 targets, Blade Flurry. 6 targets, Blade Flurry. 100 targets, Blade Flurry. Always want Blade Flurry up 24-7. Now, our main rotation is just going to be pressing Sinister Strike. Pretty fine. If you see a proc on Pistol Shot, I would generally not press it. Unless it's a blunderbuss proc. Definitely going to want a weak order to track that. Just saving, as you can see, Slicing Dice going low. So we're just going to re-roll, actually. Got a Sinister Strike buff right there, so it's going to proc our Blade Flurry more often. Alacrity's at 5 stacks because we've just been playing a lot. Always going to want to be pressing Adrenaline Rush on cooldown. A very strong ability here. Literally always on cooldown. Whatever you're attacking, single target, whatever, you're just always going to want to be having Adrenaline Rush pressed. As you can see right here, I have this tracker. Whenever it hits crit bleeds, I can press my cash, and then I now have the crit bleeds legendary, not legendary, the ability. So as you can see, I have Blade Flurry active, but I'm hitting this target, and the bleed is only applying. But when I press Blade Flurry, as you can see in 1 second here, voila, bleed is now attached to this Strain Dummy. It did not proc on the left one, unfortunately. We're just gonna keep our Roll the Bones up. You see whenever your buff gets low, you're always going to want to press it again. And you can see this debuff right here is from my rings. Whenever I stand behind the target, I'm just going to always be proccing that haste. It's going to do insane. I currently have 34% haste. Now, when we open up, we're going to press Flatulation into Combo Point Spender, into Vanish Spender, Vanish Ambush, build with some more Sinister Strikes, reroll if needed. It's pretty unlucky rolls here. Definitely you're going to want to proc your Blunderbuss, which should allow you to build more combo points. I'm at 19 stacks, so I have haste increased by 19, version increased by 19%, because of obedience, the legendary here. Fluctuation also increases your versatility. Yes, so basically you're just going to keep rolling 24/7. If you're Night Elf, I'd say it's the most competitive Outlaw race, because you can meld into another stealth only on trash. On bosses, you cannot meld at all. Meld does not allow you to be put into stealth again, but on trash it does, so you always want to be pressing that on trash. So if you can meld into an ambush, that's going to just be a lot of re-rolling your stats, getting what you want. Generally, the best buffs to go for are combo points. Sinister Strike is very strong because it procs your Blunderbuss more often. I think it's a 40% buff when you have the Sinister Strike, so it's just always going to be proccing. Let's see. Okay, we'll fall off, unfortunately. Energy, it's fine, having a passive energy buff. It just helps you play, faster, not run out of energy as much. Crit is always nice. Whenever you see crit, you're always going to want to just press Between the Eyes on cooldown. And if you're in multiple targets and you have, let's say you proc a Blunderbuss, but you already have Between the Eyes, basically because whenever you proc a Blunderbuss, you're most likely going to, with your 4-set, proc it Between the Eyes. Because once you press 6 pistol shots, you shoot Between the Eyes at 6 combo points. So you basically just want to cleave between your Blunderbuss procs between 2 targets if you can. On 1 target, it's still fine. I would still press it if you have the crit. If you have your crit Between the Eyes buff, you're always going to want to press that. You're always going to want to press Between the Eyes. It's just going to be insane damage with 4 times multiplier. Very strong. Very strong. Also, towards the end of a dungeon, if your crit is high enough, I'd say around 50% from infiltrators, running the from infiltrators getting the shrouded buff, I'd say you can press Between the Eyes on CD, regardless, single target, just whenever you can, because it's just going to do that so much more damage when it's multiplied. It's just extremely worth it to press it all the time. And I'd say that's about it for the Outlaw rotation. I mean, it's pretty simple. I'd say it's straightforward. You need a suit, you just hit your Shiv. Just Vanish on cooldown all the time. Shadow Meld if you can on cooldown. Don't know where the training dummy, but I promise you it works in dungeons. Just gotta take your time and learn it. Always keep slicing dice 100% uptime, regardless of what content you're doing. 100% uptime. Whenever you're taking a big AoE ability, Feint extremely strong. Extremely strong. There are many abilities that you wouldn't think are AoE, but are AoE. Like the flame arrows on the first boss of Iron Docks. Those are AoE. You can feint those if you're getting hit by them for whatever reason. Try to move out of the way. Last boss, the lightning on the ground, that's AoE. Feint that, damage reduction, beautiful. Gouge whatever you can, whatever you cannot interrupt with your kick, or if your kick's on cooldown, just gonna use Gouge. Beautiful kick, 15-second cooldown, same cooldown as your kick, same range, just basically another kick. It's great, and it generates you a count point, even better. Yeah, I'd say it's about it for the rotation. I'd say kidney things on cooldown, especially if you're running the Prey on the Weak talent here. Right now I'm running Dance Steel, but this is generally my main build for M+. Yeah. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to answer them as much as possible. I love helping people out, learn Outlaw, learn whatever ults I play. I just love helping people play better. It's just great. I can link any week where you want in the comments. Just let me know, and I'd be happy to do so. Anyway, I hope you're well, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one. Peace.